Very rarely do we see NBA players having the best years of their career as they approach their mid-30s. Usually, most NBA players reach their primes around age 27 to 29. After 30, it gets a bit dicey. More often than not, we see guys fall off pretty drastically around their early to mid-30s. Russell Westbrook is the prime example of that. Other former stars like Chris Paul, James Harden, Draymond Green, they've all regressed over the years. However, in this video, let's take a look at 5 NBA players who are playing the best basketball of their careers as they approach their mid-30s. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, let's get started. DeMar DeRozan. If I made this video last year, I could have probably put DeRozan in it too. He was freaking phenomenal, the best season and the most clutch he's ever been. Now at the age of 33, he's continuing where he left off and has not missed a beat. DeMar's currently scoring at the most efficient rate of his career. Despite his age, he's still relentlessly drawing fouls and putting his body on the line, a sign of great conditioning. In fact, in terms of playstyle, he's not much different than he used to be in Toronto. The main difference is he's so much smarter when deciding what shots to take. He's more comfortable getting to his spots, and he's more patient in finding good shots instead of forcing bad ones. When he was younger, that was his biggest problem on offense. He didn't have the wits or the tact to recognize what the best play to make was. Sometimes it takes players years to polish that skill, but it's better late than never. I would go as far as to say that the last 2 years of his career were the best individual seasons he's ever had. The sad part is, the Bulls don't look like they're going anywhere this time. While DeRozan's playing better than ever, the rest of his team has regressed. I'm not sure if the Bulls expected a trio of DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic to be a competitive playoff team, but those two severely regressed compared to last year. The injury to Lonzo Ball certainly does not help. In fact, it's a pretty big deal. He was a huge part of this team's success last year. The younger guys have not progressed in any meaningful way either, so now the Bulls aren't even in the playoff conversation. It's sad to see such a great season being wasted. Brook Lopez. Okay, so I know Lopez used to be an all-star a long time ago on the Nets. In those seasons, he was the man on the team and led them in scoring multiple times. So it's weird for me to say that he's peaking right now even though he's a role player. But keep in mind, that was a completely different Brook Lopez back then. In those days, he was predominantly a post player, a back-to-the-basket threat who still modeled his game after a traditional center. We all know his playstyle radically changed since then. So in Lopez's current form and current playstyle, now is the best he's ever been. Plus, his production now is way more significant because the Bucks are championship contenders. Lopez is averaging a career-high 3 blocks a game and a career-high 40% from 3 at the age of 34. The thing is, he's still very dominant in the paint. He just doesn't score that much from there anymore. Whenever he does, I think it's funny people act surprised, but this is who he was for most of his life. In fact, he's been so good recently, he's gotten a new nickname, Splash and Swat. Here's a cool stat that Milwaukee writer Jerry Tapp discovered. Quote, "Since 1989, there have been 37 times that a player had 6 blocks and 3 three-pointers in a game. Lopez has now done it 4 times in his 15-year career, 3 times with the Bucks and once when he played for the Nets. His 4 games with 6 blocks and 3 three-pointers is tied for the second most in league history. Miles Turner tops the list with 5 such games." Lopez is one of few players in NBA history who completely revamped his game to fit the changing NBA landscape. He's a 3-and-D center who plays his role to absolute perfection. And even though he's not putting up gaudy scoring numbers like he used to, I'd say he's currently playing the best he's ever played. Jimmy Butler. In recent years, I've been watching Jimmy Butler more than ever. I will admit that back when he was on the Bulls, that era post-Derrick Rose, I didn't really watch him that much. The reason being is that I didn't find Butler exciting or fun to watch. He seemed like a typical shooting guard, putting up decent numbers and made some noise in the playoffs. Back then, his defense is what he got recognized for, especially his defense on LeBron. But nowadays, I feel like it's his offense that's catching people's attention. On the Miami Heat, when he first arrived, Butler became the leader of a young team that nobody even thought was a playoff team, let alone capable of reaching the finals in the most competitive East we've seen in a long time. At the age of 33, Butler is now shooting a career high in two-point percentage, and his 63% true shooting percentage is also a career high. Butler has always been an anomaly. Most guards who score this efficiently are usually great three-point shooters, but not him. In an era that demanded most shooting guards be able to shoot threes, Butler excelled without needing that in his arsenal. He scores by shooting twos and using his body to draw fouls, in a similar vein as DeMar DeRozan, except Butler actually turns it up in the playoffs. That's the most impressive part, actually. Most NBA stars play worse in the playoffs compared to the regular season, but Butler is the complete opposite. The playoffs give him energy. He's like a top 10 to top 15 player in the regular season, but a top 5 player in the playoffs. The reason for his extraordinary efficiency now is that he's taking by far the most attempts within 10 feet of the basket than any other season of his career. 64% of his total field goal attempts come from there. I guess it makes sense. If a player is gonna focus on shooting two-pointers, they better be the most efficient two-pointers. That's always been Butler's biggest strength, ever since he was young, but now he's capitalizing on it. Plus, it's even more amazing that he's driving and getting to the basket this frequently, which goes to show how conditioned he truly is. That's one thing you can never criticize Butler on, his conditioning. The dude is arguably the most in-shape athlete in the entire NBA. If you compare his career trajectory to James Harden's, for example, Harden's biggest criticism, besides his defense, was his lack of conditioning. It seems like every season he comes into training camp out of shape and has to lose weight as the season progresses. He's the same age as Butler, but age impacts Harden much more due to his mediocre conditioning. That's why Butler can play like this despite his age, and that's why, even though Harden has been better than him for 95% of their careers, Butler is now the better player in his twilight years. Steph Curry. Honestly, I don't think anything can top Steph Curry's 2015 to 2016 MVP season. The year the Warriors won 73 games, Curry had arguably the best offensive season in history. But you know what? Statistically, he's had multiple seasons of similar production since then. Curry's 2020-21 season was just as good, but the Warriors missed the playoffs, so it didn't get much recognition. Now, he's having another season that's on par, 30 points a game on ridiculous percentages. With Steph's playstyle, most people would assume he'd start falling off by now. Curry is the smallest guy on this list, usually the smallest guy on the court. His game might not seem athletic at a glance, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of quickness to get open like he does. The way he scores might seem effortless, but he's constantly running around just to get the smallest sliver of an opening. This usually deteriorates with age, but at 34 years old, he's excelled for this long because of how skilled he is. He doesn't have the length to just shoot over somebody, and he doesn't have the explosiveness to just blow by somebody at will. Curry is constantly working and sharpening his craft. Through endless repetition, he's mastered his handles and his stroke. And those things won't go away with age as quickly. Kevin Durant. It's been 8 years since Durant won his one and only MVP. Even today, that season is still recognized as Durant's best individual year. He had better statistical seasons in Golden State, but the talent around him was also so much better. In that 2014 campaign, with Westbrook out for half the year, it was literally just Durant leading a bunch of role players to 59 wins. However, right now, in Brooklyn, it eerily reminds me of his MVP season. Durant is once again single-handedly carrying this franchise, and his co-star missed a bunch of games. Individually, Durant's numbers are otherworldly. He's shooting a career high on his two-pointers and a career high from the free throw line. His 30 points a game is the most he's had since his MVP season. He's actually scoring more efficiently now than he did when he was in Golden State, and surrounded by all those great shooters. His 30 points a game is the most he's had since his MVP season, but he's doing it more efficiently than ever. How exactly is he able to still be this good for so long, even after all those injuries? Well, Durant has always been a naturally gifted athlete. Just by how long he is, he has an inherent advantage over most players. But he still adapted as he got older. The way he plays now, it's not as fast or explosive as it once was. He's focusing more on getting to his spots and creating mismatches through switches. His game now is more methodical and calculated than it's ever been. His post-up game especially came a long way since his younger days. It was the one part of his offense that he used to get blasted for, but that's no longer the case. Posting up allows him to maximize his length to its fullest potential. I'm super curious to see how his time on the Nets pans out. I feel like this team is so random that they could either get knocked out the first round or make it to the finals, and I would not be surprised if either of those things happened. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were 5 NBA players who are playing the best basketball of their lives as they approach their mid-30s. Let me know in the comment section if you can think of any others, whether it's in the current NBA or historically. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.